guys, welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be chatting about some new beauty launches for the month of September. Holiday is in full force in the beauty world, which I am like kind of but not entirely okay with. Like, I have barely just started to be able to appreciate fall. Like, it's technically not even fall yet here, although it definitely feels like it. It was freaking 40 degrees outside when I was walking the dog this morning. It was very cold. But like, I want a minute usually to like enjoy my pumpkin spice lattes and like let the leaves at least start changing colors before I start thinking about Christmas. Alas, when you're in the beauty world, that's not really a thing that happens. We go like right from summer directly into holiday releases. So that's mostly what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on some products and whether or not they are something I'm planning on picking up. As always, I do like to credit Samantha March as being the inspiration for this series. She does her Will I Buy It videos on her channel every week on Wednesdays, so I will link that playlist for you guys in the description box of this video in case you'd like to check it out. But yeah, we have lots to talk about today. I'm sure this video is going to be epically long as per the usual, so without me rambling anymore, let's get into it. Okay, so the first launch that I want to talk about is the Marc Jacobs holiday collection. Now, this is something that immediately caught my eye because of the aesthetic of the packaging. Now, I will say Marc Jacobs, they launch a holiday collection every year, and pretty much every year I pass it over. Like, I don't think in any previous year of the brands being in existence, I have gone out and purchased any of like the holiday eyeshadow palettes. I think the only thing I've ever purchased is one of the like glitter eyeshadows that they launched maybe a year or two ago, but only because it went on sale like a couple months after the holiday had passed. This, however, just spoke to my soul with the coloring and the aesthetic and the whole idea. So this year's theme for Marc Jacobs holiday is cherry themed, which is definitely not your typical kind of standard holiday vibes. Like, it's still red and green, but in a very fun, fresh way. So all the packaging is this really beautiful mint green, which honestly is probably what's getting me. I love mint green as a color. And then there's this little three-dimensional kind of like jeweled little cherry emblem on each of the compacts. It is so stinking cute. Now, I have not seen that all the pieces of this collection are available at Sephora. Maybe they're available on the Marc Jacobs website. I don't know if any of these are exclusive to other retailers either, but I know you can get the iconic palette at Sephora right now. So that is a 7-pan eyeshadow palette. So the same standard layout as all of Marc Jacobs' other normal permanent eyeshadow palettes, just, with the special limited edition packaging. The shade is called Terrific, and it retails for $49.50. Now, this is where I have to like stop and take a pause, because I know that if I was to just see this palette without the external packaging, I probably would not drop like nearly $50 on it. It's only a 7-pan palette, so that is a lot of money to be spending on just that number of shades, and they're not particularly big pans either if you've ever seen one of these palettes in person. The color story is monochromatic, and I would actually say this leans more of like a berry raspberry type of red than a true like cherry red. Like, you're not getting any bright, bold, intense matte red shades in this palette. It definitely is a little bit more subdued, which I think is going to appeal to a wider base of people. Not everyone wants to wear bright red eyeshadow, so this is definitely a more kind of middle of the road safe take on the shade Cherry. Now, I have seen a couple of reviews of this palette, and I feel like the feedback so far has been like mixed to positive. It seems like there are a couple different textures of the shadows in this palette. Some are kind of more like sparkly toppers, and you have a few more traditional metallics as well as some mattes. And it seems like in general, everything performs pretty decently. It kind of depends on your preference of how you like to do your makeup, whether or not certain finishes are going to be something you'll like working with. But like overall, it seems to create a pretty look. It's just going to be kind of one note because the overall color story is pretty monochromatic. So there was definitely a part of me that like almost immediately wanted to throw this into my Sephora shopping cart because I saw the palette, it looked so stinking adorable, and I don't own any Marc Jacobs eyeshadow palettes, and I've never tried one before. So like this is the first one that I've ever seen that I've been like, ooh, I want to buy that. But I also feel like my reason for wanting to buy it is not necessarily for the right reason. While I do really like the shades, like I know I have those kinds of berry tones elsewhere in my makeup collection, so I don't know that purchasing it is going to necessarily give me anything unique to my collection aside from the pretty packaging. Now, also in this collection, there is a big pan highlighter, one of the Omega Glaze all over foil luminizers, and this is in the shade Guilty. It retails for $49, which again is a pretty hefty price tag. I think this is meant to be used on face and body, which is why it's so large, and it does look like it's a really beautiful kind of champagne-y, warm, goldish type of color. Like definitely something that looks beautiful, and again, the packaging on the compact, super stunning. But this would be something that would be easier for me to say no to just because I know, or at least am more mentally able to convince myself, like I don't need a giant highlight. It was the same thing with Huda Beauty's launch of their like nymph powder highlights in the big like rose compacts. Again, super beautiful, but like I don't need to spend $50 on a highlight, and I don't highlight my body, especially now going into fall and winter. Like I basically am going to be living in hoodies 24/7. So not something that I can justify as easily as I can justify an eyeshadow palette, although even that is something like I know I probably shouldn't buy. Now, also within this collection, it looks like there's going to be a Lamarck Lip Cream lipstick as well as the Velvet Noir Major Volume Mascara. These are both in limited edition mint green packaging, but they don't have the little like cherries on them. I think just on the like exterior boxes that they come in. And then they also have a bunch of little holiday sets that again have like the limited edition packaging on the boxes, but not on the products themselves because they're like little sampler kits with mini versions of products that are just in the regular packaging. I'm pretty sure I can easily pass over all of these. I do really like the Velvet Noir mascara from Marc Jacobs. It's very dramatic and very volumizing. I haven't used it in a couple years, but I do remember when I did have it in my collection, I really enjoyed it a lot. But I don't necessarily feel like it's worth $27 to me. Like it's not something that I need right now. I have tons of mascara on hand, so that's something I could easily pass over. The Lamarck Lip Cream formula is really beautiful, but the shades for this particular holiday collection aren't really speaking to me. So pretty much everything except for the eyeshadow palette from this collection, I know I can very easily say no to. I think I'm going to leave the eyeshadow palette on my loves list, but I don't think I'm going to go out and buy it right away. Like as much as I'm tempted to, there are other things that I also want that I think would be a better makeup purchase for me. So if this doesn't sell out and it's still around post-holiday, like there's a good chance it'll go on sale, and I think if that happens, maybe then I'll pick it up. If it, goes out of stock, then it wasn't meant to be. So I'm just gonna kind of leave that one up to chance. Now, the thing that I am more interested in potentially spending my money on that's also kind of expensive, and I feel like I'd almost kind of rather take that $50 and put it towards this product, is something from the new Hourglass holiday collection. Now, Hourglass, again, launches kind of like the same things every year for holiday. They've been doing their 6-pan palettes for quite a long time now. I want to say since maybe 2015 or so. And every year I pretty easily write these ones off. They're very expensive. It's $80 for the 6-pan edit palettes. And when you look at the price per gram, it's definitely exorbitantly priced. You're getting a lot more bang for your buck to buy one of the powders in full size. However, I kind of also feel like I know I never pan anything, and if I wanted to try the blush and bronzer formulas from Hourglass, it would make sense to buy one of those 6-pan palettes, because even just getting one of the little mini sizes of each of those individual products is still $24. So over, I would say, the last year or so, the idea of buying one of these palettes definitely has started to appeal to me a little bit more. But last holiday season with the Ghost edit that they launched, I hated the packaging. And if I was gonna drop $80 on an Hourglass palette, I at least wanted to like the packaging as well as the products inside of it. And knowing that they do one every single year, I just figured I could wait and see what they did for 2020. And I will say the sculpture theme from this year, I'm a much bigger fan of. So it's like a gold exterior that's very much their normal aesthetic with a bit of a more like structured kind of geometrically shaped exterior packaging. Like it doesn't have a smooth surface. It's got some like edges to it that makes it look a little more like architectural. It's pretty. It's like, it's not too much. It's not trying too hard, but it's a little bit different. So I'm definitely much more down with this year's theme than previous years. Also, looking at the powders they chose to include in this year's collection, all 6 of the shades are ones that I personally would like to use. So you have the light bronzer, you have Mood Exposure blush, which if I was going to buy one of the mini blushes, that's probably the shade I would buy anyway. You have, I think, Dim Light and Diffuse Light from the original Ambient Powder collections. So yeah, overall, I feel like it looks like a nice palette for someone with my skin tone. However, as many other people have also pointed out, it does suck that they don't launch 2 versions of this palette every year. If you're going to be making a curated palette with different kinds of shades for your face, I feel like it's kind of unacceptable at this point in time to not offer something for people with medium to deep skin. Now, I love that Hourglass is all about fighting against animal cruelty. Like, the brand is doing some great things, but they're not the most inclusive. And I definitely feel like this is an area where they continue to drop the ball. And I was hoping that this year, maybe they would finally take all the feedback that they've been getting and make a second palette. But alas, we're only seeing the 1 version of the 6-pan. They do have a second 4-pan little palette that is basically just an edited down version of a palette that they launched, I think, a year or 2 ago. And having watched Kinky Sweat's video, I know that both of these palettes work on her skin tone. She has talked about them, but as a woman of color, she is someone with a lighter skin tone. She definitely doesn't represent like the deepest of the deep. So I do definitely question whether or not either of these palettes would work on someone with like a rich chocolate skin tone. So long story short, this ambient lighting edit palette definitely is speaking to me. It's something I am strongly considering picking up just because I know that Hourglass powders are really beautiful. I don't have any of them in my collection right now, and I haven't had any of them in my collection in many, many years. I had purchased one of the original little trio palettes that they first launched with the ambient lighting powders back in 2013, and since decluttering that, I have not repurchased anything new. So that is something I think I might treat myself to this holiday season, but I do definitely still want to put it out there that I think the brand could be doing better from an inclusivity standpoint. So let's talk a brand that I feel like is notorious when it comes to having massive holiday collections. And that's Too Faced. We know Too Faced is like entirely extra when it comes to holiday. They launch so many products, it's kind of mildly obnoxious. They usually do like an Ulta exclusive collection, a Sephora exclusive collection, then they have products that are available everywhere. They do their kind of like fall themed launches, and then they also have their more traditional Christmas or like wintry themed launches. And in the end, it's a lot. Now, I have come to realize over many years of testing makeup that usually the collections that Too Faced launches that are Ulta and Sephora exclusives and that are more traditional holiday themed are not necessarily the best. I don't think that they are manufactured in the same labs as their permanent products, or they're certainly like more quickly mass produced specifically for holiday. And I think in doing that, they compromise the quality a little bit. And I think part of that is that you have a wider customer base for holiday. You have a lot of people buying makeup that don't normally shop for makeup and aren't quite as picky around the holidays. So I feel like you can almost kind of get away with, as a brand, selling makeup that's like these big blockbuster kits and whatnot that aren't necessarily as good as your normal stuff because people are still going to buy it regardless. However, their fall themed launches that they've been doing recently, like with the gingerbread spice palettes and the new pumpkin spice palette, those I feel like are very similar in quality to their traditional like chocolate bar palettes in the similar tin packaging. So I have felt a little bit better about adding those to my collection. I have the gingerbread extra spicy from last year, and if you saw my recent haul video, you'll know I picked up the new pumpkin spice palette as well as the new pumpkin spice melted matte liquid lipstick. And honestly, so far I'm really loving the pumpkin spice palette. I feel like it's performing beautifully. So those I feel like are definitely geared more towards the traditional beauty enthusiast, someone that's really into makeup and that's going to be a little bit more critical about their makeup purchases. But Too Faced has launched a bunch of other stuff as well that I feel like really goes over the top with packaging and with the theming, and that's how they suck people in. Now, something interesting I did notice this year is that it looks like Too Faced is kind of bringing back or like getting inspired by the little mini liquid lipstick set they launched a couple of years ago. If you've been like in this beauty YouTube space, you probably remember that set from a couple of years back. It had 4 mini melted matte liquid lipsticks, all in holiday inspired shades, and they smelled and tasted like whatever the shade name was. They had the most adorable stinking packaging, and the set was like $25, so it wasn't even like crazy expensive. It was a really good value for how much liquid lipstick you were getting. So that thing sold out like real quick. I was really happy to be able to buy that and have it in my collection, and I held on to those liquid lipsticks until this fall when I realized I probably should get rid of them. So it seems like, knowing the popularity of that set, they decided to go back and use those shades to create some more new holiday products. So obviously we saw the pumpkin spice liquid lipstick from that set come back this year in full size, and then they themed a whole palette around it. And it seems like they've done the same thing with the cinnamon bear shade that was from that original little mini liquid lipstick set, and they have a cinnamon bear eyeshadow palette this year, although that is one of the smaller palettes, and I think that one is cardboard as well. And Too Faced has also got a few of the little mini tin palettes. They introduced those last year holiday season, so they have a couple new versions of that. I think they have like a salted caramel one that's got some very nice warm neutral tones. Also, it seems like they decided to bring back the mini liquid lipstick set this year as well. I know in the last couple of years they've done like lip glosses or lip toppers instead of the liquid lipsticks, and I don't think that they did as well as the liquid lipsticks. And it looks like the shades this time around are different from the last set, with the exception of Sugar Cookie. That's the only liquid lipstick that's a repeat from the 2017 version. However, it looks like most of the shades in this new liquid lipstick set are a little bit deeper, a little bit more vampy. You've got kind of like dark brown, nude, and red tones, which does have a very distinctly like fall holiday vibe to it. So for me personally, I know I'm not going to be buying all of this Too Faced holiday stuff. I have the pumpkin spice palette and I'm enjoying that, and I kind of feel like that's really all I need from Too Faced holiday this year. I know that I'm probably not going to be using all that holiday makeup by April or May, so I think I'll just stick to pumpkin spice and leave it at that. So let's take a moment away from holiday and look at some other new beauty launches. So Jouer is coming out with these Blush and Bloom lip and cheek duos. When I saw this, like the first thing I thought of was the On The Glow Blush and Illuminator from Wander Beauty, because I feel like the packaging is pretty much identical to this. This is a dual-ended product that has a blush on one side and a cream highlight on the other. These Jouer duos have blushes on both sides, but it's a product that can be used on lips and cheeks. Now, I have generally really liked Jouer's cheek products. I think they do a really great job with their blush and highlight formulas. So I would give these the benefit of the doubt and say they probably would be pretty nice. I haven't seen anybody use them on camera yet. There may be videos out there, but honestly, I'm so behind on my YouTube watching because I have way less free time now with Kira. But anyway, I think that these would probably look beautiful on the cheeks. I personally am trying to keep a very minimum amount of cream products in my collection just because they don't last the way that powders do, and I know I can't go through them very quickly. So I generally like to only buy a new one when I'm going to be decluttering one out of my collection, so I'm not creating a ton of excess waste. So this is something I don't think I'm going to run out and buy, but it definitely is like something I'm curious about. Like, I would throw this on my loves list, but maybe not buy it for another year. Now, it comes in 3 different shades, and I feel like depending on the picture, the swatches do look a little bit different, but I think the one that speaks to me most is the Celebrate Duo, because I feel like that one has a nice balance. It's not too bright, but it's not too nude, and I feel like it would give a nice pretty flush to the cheeks, so I probably will add that, like I said, to my Sephora loves list, but I don't think I'm gonna run out and buy it. We are also seeing a new set of Obsessions palettes from Huda Beauty. These have been like a big hit for the brand. They've been launching new versions of the Obsessions palettes fairly often, and it seems like the updated kind of more luxurious looking packaging is definitely here to stay. When these first launched, they were in cardboard packaging, but it seems like the last several collections have been in plastic packaging and have a little bit more unique looking components that are themed around the specific collection. So this time we have the Haze Obsessions, and the 3 shades this come in are the Sand Haze, the Khaki Haze, and Purple Haze. Isn't that a Jimi Hendrix song? Pretty sure that it is. Now, the first thing I thought when I saw these palettes was nude, because I feel like the vibes of these palettes reminds me very much of that palette, in that they're a blend of neutral tones with a pop of muted color, which is also kind of what I thought when they launched the nude Little Mini Obsessions palettes. Those were very clearly inspired by nude, but I feel like this collection, same deal, also would be a really nice complement to that palette. The Sand Haze especially, I feel like, is really giving me those new nude vibes, just because you have those kind of soft neutral, a little bit peachy tones in there, the slight purpliness. And obviously the Purple Haze one goes more in the purple direction, even more than nude did, but it's still not anywhere near as purple as, say, like the Amethyst Obsessions palette was that launched a couple of years ago. Personally, I think the palette out of this bunch that appeals to me most is the Khaki Haze. This one actually has a really cool color story to it. It's got very like grungy vibes, which I kind of like. It's fall without being so predictably fall, because it's not an orange warm toned like leaf color inspired palette. You have kind of like the dirty greens, a little bit of peachiness and warmth in there to kind of counterbalance. Like, I think you could create some really, really beautiful looks with that little palette. Again, but will I buy it? I don't know. Do I need it? Probably not. Do I have the ability to dupe these shades in other places in my collection? Probably. But I feel like it is a nice little color story to have all on its own. And the $29 price point I feel like is pretty fair for these palettes. I've said this before, Huda Beauty's bigger palettes are actually not as good of a value as 2 of her Obsessions palettes. So the big palettes have 18 shades, the Obsessions have 9, but if you were to look at the cost of 2 of the Obsessions palettes, it actually is less money than one of the big ones. Now, I am also just gonna throw it out there. I haven't tried these yet, but LA Girl is launching some 9-pan eyeshadow palettes that look very similar to the Huda Beauty Obsessions palettes as far as layout goes, but I'm sure they are a fraction of the price. And the LA Girl eyeshadow formula in the bigger palettes that I've tried is really, really excellent. So if these little mini palettes are similar in quality to the big ones, they may honestly be totally worth picking up if one of the color stories is speaking to you. They do look really pretty, a little less, I would say, unique than the new Haze Obsessions palettes. Those have, you know, some more interesting color stories, I think, than these ones from LA Girl. But yeah, I would definitely be super curious to get my hands on one of these and see what they like, because I feel like they could be a great drugstore alternative. Okay, so let's wrap things up today with a hot off the press new launch announcement. This was just posted by Trend Mood an hour ago, so I haven't even really had a chance to like look into this yet, but since it's here, let's talk about it. So we're finally seeing some sneak peeks of Pat McGrath's Holiday 2020 collection, and I'm already excited by what's in these photographs. So first, it looks like there's going to be quite a large cardboard style eyeshadow palette that has 18 shades in it, which Pat McGrath has never done a palette, to my knowledge, that big before. Usually the biggest palettes she does are her 10-pan eyeshadow palettes that retail for $125. Now, there aren't any prices on this post, so I have no idea how much this 18-pan eyeshadow palette is gonna cost, but I can only imagine it will be at least in that same ballpark. I don't think the pans are anywhere near as big as the ones in the 10-pan are, just based on looking at this and seeing the comparison to the size of the pans of the Astral eyeshadow quads, which we're about to talk about. So yeah, I think you're getting less product per pan, but you are getting a lot more shades. And this does look like a very colorful palette. You have some purples, greens, golds, like really, really beautiful, very, very fun looking palette. So I would be super, super curious to see how that swatches and see what it looks like, because we don't have that yet. Then it looks like we're also seeing 3 new Celestial Divinity Matte Trance lipsticks. We're also seeing a new Skin Fetish Sublime Skin highlighter in champagne gold. And then probably what I'm most excited about, we have the Celestial Divinity Luxe eyeshadow quads, and there are 3 different shade varieties available. Now, obviously, I don't know the formula of the eyeshadows that are in these quads. I know the previous quads had 4 astral shadows in them, which is Pat McGrath's like special formula that's known for being extra super sparkly and delicious. It doesn't look like that's the case with these quads. I think that these may have a matte shadow in them and then a couple standard metallics and then like 1 astral shade, but that's just based on me looking at an Instagram photo. I can't confirm that yet. So this is definitely something I'm going to be keeping on my radar, because I'm very, very curious both about the big palette and the quads. I know I had mentioned when I picked up the Rose Decadence palette that I was really curious to see if she was going to launch new quads for holiday this year, because none of the color stories from last year really spoke to me. But knowing that I do like her eyeshadow formula, I would be curious in picking up a quad if one of them was a color story that I liked. And these do seem all very pretty. It seems like one is kind of more like cool neutral with a pop of blue, then you have one with like a magenta, and then you have one that's kind of like more softer peachy tones with a little bit of rose. So again, very curious. Will be interested to see swatches. So yeah, I think that is about it from me today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I hope you'll consider giving it a thumbs up. I always appreciate your support so much. And I would definitely love to know what's on your radar right now as far as new beauty launches go. Are you also interested in any of these products? Have you already picked any of them up? If you have any thoughts to share, leave them for all of us in the comments down below. And of course, if you're new and this is the first time you're seeing my face, I hope you will consider clicking that subscribe button before you go. That way, yours truly will show up in your subscription feed and we can hang out together again in the future. On that note, I have a hungry puppy I need to go feed, so I'm gonna go take care of that. But I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.